All right. Looking forward to being with the whole crew today. It is exciting to be in person with you on Instagram Live out there in the community. I could not be more excited to be having an incredible guest on with me today. I want to thank Dr. Katie for getting us connected with Gladys. This doc is going to blow your mind today. We are so blessed to have the opportunity to engage with a soul that has been on the planet for a century. And being around a centurion is one of the most exciting things that you can do, and one of the best ways to spend your day. And so I'm very excited to be engaged with all of you, and to bring Dr. Gladys in with us today is going to be a joy. So I think you're listening in somewhere out there, Gladys, and I know your family's helping you connect here on the Instagram Live. So if you can if you click on my Instagram there and then request to join will be the button that you'll hit, and then I'll invite you in. But I'm very excited to be with all of you. It's been such a tumultuous year, and it's always wonderful to end a week in a positive space together and in community. One of the things that I crave the most after a year of so much distancing from previous culture, from previous social interactions, is the touch of humanity. And this has become a bizarre version of it here, as Instagram has become a way for us to connect through this. But it's a joy to think about how we can move forward together in new ways, and tapping into somebody like Gladys here, who has seen the rise of technology as she has seen the maturation of allopathic medicine, over the last century, is an incredible perspective. Gladys McGarey is an MD, trained ultimately in Western medicine, and has had an extraordinarily long career. At over 100 years of age, she continues to see clients. She is a medical health coach to many still, and brings a deep sense of respect and love into this practice of medicine that she continues today. And so it's a real joy to be able to talk story, as they say here in Hawaii, with this incredible physician from the years around us. And so I'm glancing through my Instagram feed here as I'm on with you to make sure I'm not missing Gladys joining us here. Looking through quickly. Oh my gosh, there's so many of you on. It's so good to see everybody on here. Thank you for connecting with us here. All right, I don't see her on quite yet. So Gladys, if you're listening in, again, you'll just hit request to join, and I'll let you into the feed as it comes along here. So let that keep coming. My gosh, you guys are from all over the place. Thank you. So many from Canada, Ontario, Toronto coming through, Ireland, New York City. So cool to be with all of you. At Vermont coming through, Montreal. Wow, Canada's well represented here. Wonderful to connect with all of you there. Peru, thank you for joining. Missouri, thank you for joining. Pennsylvania, Florida, all over the world connecting today. South Florida, thank you. Marco Island, all right, that keeps coming. Kansas, Philly, coming through, in Boston, loving this. Germany, my goodness. Boulder, Colorado, all right, my hometown. Born and raised. I was just back in Boulder a couple weeks ago, and it kind of blew my mind as to the changes that have happened there. El Paso, Texas, Utah, Argentina. Thank you all for jumping on. LA. If you guys have been keeping up with the Global Health Education Summits that we have been doing, a sneak peek at the one coming up next week. We'll be putting out a bunch of press on this in the next couple days. But next week on Earth Day, I'm tackling the subject of genetically modified organisms. And I'm going to do a dive into the science and technology around how gene modification, gene editing, and the like have come to be, and how we've chosen to deploy these technologies originally in agriculture, but then certainly moving into other spaces. I don't know if y'all are aware, but there's now genetically modified salmon that the FDA has approved for release into the human food chain here in the United States. I believe the main GMO salmon farm is now in Indiana, I believe. And it's not by accident or coincidence, perhaps, that the GMO scene debuting there in a fake kind of freshwater system in these farmed GMO salmon in a state where 80% of the rivers in Indiana are now deemed unsafe for recreational use, not just undrinkable. You're not even supposed to touch it. 80% of the rivers are deemed unsafe for recreational use. You should not water ski on it. You should not swim in it. It's become that toxic, the freshwater systems of Indiana. And so if you now take a step back, and for all of you joining us from around the world who hopefully aren't too clear on the geography of the United States, Indiana sits in the northern section of our country at one of the fundamental tributary systems into the Mississippi River, which is the greatest river that we have in this country. And so the Mississippi captures 60 to 80% of the runoff from farm agricultural systems, and depending on the season, it kind of waxes and wanes in that 60 to 80% range. Mississippi collecting all of that farm runoff becomes extremely toxic at its endpoint. So even at its top, where you should be at the lowest concentrations of some of these farm runoffs before you've collected from all of the Midwest and southern states that flow into the Mississippi, you've got 80% of the freshwater system considered unpalatable here. Katie, you're talking to me here. I'm on with Gladys. They're pushing the request button, isn't accepting the request. Interesting. All right. You might want to have Gladys go ahead and just log off and restart the Instagram. So just have her close her Instagram screen, reopen it, and try to join again fresh. And let's see if we can get her to kick in here with a fresh login. So with the topic of genetically modified organisms, we're going to be running from the agricultural applications that we've seen this technology moved into. Obviously, in the United States, you're looking at about 95% of the corn grown in the United States is genetically modified. Since about 2003, we've been hitting those kinds of numbers. And then the soybean soybean is 95%. Corn is at about 85% of the industry. And interestingly, with soybean in particular, which again 95% dominated by GMO, we see this huge decrement in crop yield over the 7 to 10 year period after starting genetically modified crop seed production. And the rationale and the reason for that seems to be, when we're working on these farms, an undermining of the soil integrity rather than some problem with the seed as you continue these processes. And so as you continue to spray antibiotics into the soil systems, you kill the microbial life within the soil, you kill that biophotonic energy and nutrient capacity within there. You start to get this vulnerability that's pretty profound at the soil level, and you start to produce weakened plants and you start to see the decrement. And so it's not unusual for us to find a Midwest farm that is third, fourth generation farm that was used to producing 40 bushels of soybean per acre, but after 7 to 10 years of genetic modified management and constant reapplications of not just Roundup, because most of the weeds in the Midwest are now Roundup resistant, which is one of the phenomenon of genetic modifications. Like, nature does GMO better than we do. And so when we decide to genetically modify an organism, we let loose nature's necessity for changing the behavior of biology around that modification we've made. And so the swapping of genetic information, once we've induced it into a species, becomes mobile, which is frightening, right? And so if we let these salmon into any other freshwater system, we could risk the possibility of direct insemination or something like that into these genetically modified fish that have been genetically modified in their endocrine system to grow twice as fast and twice as large as wild salmon. It's because we've modified their growth hormone axis from an endocrine standpoint. And so the fact that we have these these fish on steroids, which sounds horrific. Sounds like, how could we possibly do that? Well, we've long done that to chickens, right? And we did this through breeding processes where we got chickens to produce so much protein meat, and particularly in the breast meat, so quickly so that we could have chicken salads for everybody, which is always breast meat. That white meat became such an important commodity that we were pushing this genetic modification just through hybridization and selective genetics. And so whether you look at a selectively genetic chicken or this CRISPR kind of gene editing approach to salmon, you end up with a food product that has no resemblance to its original endocrine system and the like. And so the terrifying thing is what happens when you start to get that weed resistance phenomenon where species you did not intend that gene to go start to cross-pollinate that genetic information. And so this is the Pandora's box that we've let loose. We've already done this on a global level with our agricultural system, and then of course with this meat production system as we've brought salmon in here. And so it's been an incredible journey, I think, for us to watch this exquisite technology. It's mind-blowing, I think, to see how this technology works, and then to see the decision making that we've made around this technology is just dumbfounding. It smacks of our hubris as a species, as you see what we've done with it. And then this year has been particularly amazing, as we just gave carte blanche to the pharmaceutical industry to roll out untested, without safety or efficacy data, genetic modification to the population at large, and then term it a vaccine program. And so what we're doing with SARS-CoV-2 is not at all a vaccine. A vaccine is where you take, and this dates back to the Salk Institute at the very beginning of the science of vaccination, is you take some element of a virus or a bacteria and you expose the human immune system to that and then induce an antibody response downstream. That whole philosophy was based on the belief that the human immune system was there to sterilize the environment around us, to sterilize the body of any invaders, bacteria, fungi, and the like. And, of course, that held right up until about 2005, 2010, when genomics started to expose the reality that our bodies are anything but sterile. A healthy human body now recognized to have a massive microbiome in every organ system, even within our brain and the like. We've got bacteria and fungi that are nursemating our neurology into health and longevity. And so it's a phenomenally fascinating thing to see this kind of progress here. I'm looking for hone carry. Katie, thank you for continuing to try to work with Dr. McGarey here to get her in. So be looking for a MC Gary request. All right. I'm looking for any requests coming in so that Dr. McGarey can join us here. Giving it just another minute. I appreciate everybody's patience here. There's John McGarey there. John McGarey. So I'm looking for. Appreciate everybody's patience here. Gladys is trying to join again. I'm seeing the notes about everything about Gladys. Gladys, keep the faith. You're amazing. I hope that I have the drive to have patience with Instagram when I'm 100, and so hats off to you in your diligence and effort to stay engaged here. Keep trying. I'm trying to make sure that on my side I'm not screwing this up on my end here. And I'm happy to take responsibility for that, Gladys. It's 50-50 as to me being the culpable party here. I'm about as technologically advanced as a piece of linoleum, I feel like. Let's see here. My tech-savvy wife is coming by here to see if she can help bail me out here.
I think you can invite her to think her thing is Dr. Oh, is that the one she has? It's not under living medicine doctor. Try this one.
Just tell Gladys to click your name, and then she'll be prompted to request to join. So Gladys, I think you've already found the request to join button, Gladys, and you've been trying to hit that.
Try that. Press that. Gladys McGarey. This one.
This one.
Yeah.
Send an invite to you to join there, Gladys. See if that works better than a request to join. And so it may have shown up in the little icons at the lower side of your screen there. If there's a number 1 or 2 that appeared there, that was me sending you an invitation. You can hit on that.
She's just like, that's it. Yep.
All right, I can see that you've been invited there, Gladys, and so if you can, look at this.
Yay.
Hold your phone.
Well done, John. Thank you. Gladys.
Well,
Hello.
yeah, I'm being physicianed.
You are being taken care of. I am so glad you got a team around you. I need the same thing on my end there. So very good. Well done. Thanks for joining. To wrap up my thoughts on what's coming up this week, everybody, on the GMO topic, you can join us on Earth Day. Will be promoted over the weekend and everything else, but sketch it in for next Thursday, Earth Day, the 22nd of the month, and we are going to do the deep dive on genetic modification from corn to humans from 1996 to 2021. What have we done with this technology of gene editing? So we'll be doing a deep dive on that. But right now, I want to shift gears and thank you, Gladys, for keeping the faith and fighting for a few minutes to get connected here. Yeah. I could not be more excited to have you here. I want to dive right in with you with the extraordinary opportunity to ask you to introduce yourself in the form of where you were born and when you were born to begin this extraordinary journey together.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry about the glitch, but these things happen with my energy sometimes too. So anyway, I was born November 30th, 1920. So that adds up to 100 years old, no matter how you look at it. And my mother went into labor with me at the Taj Mahal. I don't know if she's a drama queen or me, but anyway, I made it through the birth passage and arrived, and grew up in the jungles pretty much of North India, because my parents were both osteopathic physicians that went out to India in 1914, right during the middle of the First World War. There were U-boats on the water and all of that kind of stuff, and they had a 4-month-old boy with them, and went to India with their medical training, which was kind of tricky because both of them were osteopaths, and the church or somebody didn't accept osteopaths as physicians at that point. So my dad had to get an extra degree, and he went to Los Angeles and got a degree in a residency in ophthalmology. And so my mother went out as his wife, so that they could do the work. And I'm so pleased that they did, because for me, as I look back on it, I consider my childhood to have been just a really important piece of personal history, because I loved it until I went to school. And when I went to school, everything changed, because I didn't know what was wrong, and nobody else knew what was wrong, except that I was pretty stupid, because I couldn't learn to read, and I couldn't learn to add or subtract. It wasn't that I didn't know the alphabet and the A and all of that. It's just that the numbers and the letters jumped around, and so they never made any sense. God and dog were the same word. And so I had to repeat first grade with a teacher who really thought I was the classic dumbbell. And it was tough. But we lived in this school was a school up in the high Himalayas, not the high Himalayas, but up in the Himalayas, 7,500 feet up. And our home was another 1,000 feet up, and the road from our house down to school was a good mile. And so when I started school, that's the road I took up and down. And so by the end of school day, I would be feeling like a sort of lost puppy dog or something, but I dragged myself up the hill, and at the top of the hill at our house, our Ayah. Now, our Ayah was this, like, she was my second mother, this Indian woman who had no education, absolutely had no idea about what to do as far as reading and writing is concerned, but she knew love, and she knew how to love. And so I knew that she would be sitting up there on the veranda waiting for me to get up there. And as soon as she saw my head pop up, she'd say, "Idhar aao, come here." And I would go over to her, and she'd reach out her shawl, and I'd climb in under the shawl and sit there until my life came back into order. And the next day I'd go back to school, and I'd come back and do the same thing. So I was able to reconnect and get my life back on track, because I spoke Hindustani before I spoke English. And I knew when I was 2 years old, not that I was going to be a doctor, but that I was a doctor. And all this business of reading and writing and stuff was just something I had to get through in order for other people to, to understand what was going on in my life. So my childhood was, but then, you know, when I was in third grade, when I was 9 years old, things changed. I had a teacher who saw something in me that the others hadn't seen, because I could talk. I mean, there was nothing wrong with talking, and I could understand what was going
You're
on.
still pretty good at it.
Well, that's some people can sing, I can talk. So she saw something in me, and she appointed me class governor. And class governor, I was able to present what our class had done to the whole student body. And so it was, you know, I guess I was able to express my voice at that time. That did something. But
Let me catch the audience up, because it's easy to be caught up in your story because you are so facile with it. You're so quick to keep it moving. And the very first sentence is, "I was born in 1920."
Yeah.
We just need to all soak in that for a second. 100 years ago in India, northern India, this woman is born to a mother who was actually originally a seamstress in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and a father who was a farmer from Kansas, who both decided in the 1910s to go ahead and go to osteopathic school. I'm trying to imagine your mother. What an extraordinary woman that in the 19-teens would say, "I'm going to become a medical doctor in this osteopathic field, this relatively new field, and I'm going to do this journey." And they met in medical school during their osteopathic training.
Yes.
Yeah. And so a seamstress and a farmer come together and decide that they're going to start their medical journey in this mission work in northern India. And give us a glimpse. I want the audience to be taken back to 1920 here, or 1916 when they arrived there, and your early childhood, because we could think of like maybe what we would imagine a relatively rudimentary village or something like that, but your stories are much more incredible than that. So describe your village, and then you're going to have to tie that into the wall hanging behind you at some point. But start with a description of India in 1916, and then in the early 1920s as you start to have your earliest memories.
Well, in 1920, there were no car. My dad didn't have a car. He had a buggy with a horse called Lorna. And so up until about 1918, that's what took us from place to place. And place to place meant that my parents took their medical work back into the jungles of North India. And we would stay for 10 days to 2 weeks at one place while they did the medical work that they could do in that time. And then we would move on to another place, which was a regular schedule that they followed all winter long. It was too much. You couldn't do it in the summertime, but all winter long, we lived in the jungles up there. And that meant that we had our tent, the family tent, and then around us was the Bible woman and Aya's tent and the Shikari's tent and different tents of the community. And my parents would, and the medicine tent, that was a big thing. That was the medicine tent. It was wonderful. And my parents every morning after breakfast would sit at the medicine tent, and my dad would take care of the men and the boys, and my mother would take care of the women and the girls. Whatever, no matter what it was, nobody was sent away. There was no money exchange. There was nothing except people who needed care and my parents who were there to do what they could do, which was from pulling teeth to helping babies be born or repairing, but malaria, all the time there was malaria. And in fact, we all had malaria. You just got malaria, it was what you had. So it was that, but one time, and this tiger, this tiger up here it's not a trophy. It's a this tiger was marauding the villages around where our camp was, and the village people asked my dad to come and take care of that, and he did, and so I've had this tiger on my wall all my life pretty much. So there were animals around. I have a leopard that I shot over there because on the other side of the room, because when I was 15, my dad said, "All right, it's time for you to learn how to do this," and we went out and sat up all night waiting for the tiger to come, and she came, and the leopard, and I shot her, and that was, so she's here with me. But I loved living that way because we had sort of free reign, and I could run around with the little Indian children, and if I saw a baby out in the home, because I was allowed to go in and out because I was a kid, and I thought this child was having some trouble, with a mother's permission, I could bring her in, and my mother and I would take care of her, and I could take her back. But it was, of course, her sisters and all the other kids would be with me when I'm doing this. So it was that kind of a thing. But then one day, my dad and my older brothers were off on a hunt for something. I don't know where they were, but they weren't at camp. And so Mom was in charge of everything that was going on. And here, an elephant shows up in the camp with, led in by the Mahout, the elephant boy. And this young boy says to my mother, "This elephant is the Maharaja's favorite elephant." And we were on a hunt, I don't know, I guess it was a couple of weeks before, and the elephant stepped on a bamboo stump, and part of the stump went into the elephant's leg, and the elephant is having a really hard time. She can't walk very well with this. So my mother says to the kid, "Well, I've never treated an elephant." And the young man says, "You're a doctor, aren't you?" And she says, "Yes." He says, "Then you're going to treat an elephant." So she says, "Okay." So she sits the first thing she did, and I was 9 years old, and I remember this. First thing she does is go walking up to the elephant, and this huge leg is there with this, it's suppurating wound on it. And she pats the elephant, starts talking to it. And then of course, I'm right there. And she tells me to go fix some potassium permanganate in a pan and get a syringe, which I knew what that was, and the forceps. And so I did that and brought them back. And she took the first forceps and began moving around into the wound. And the elephant is standing there just perfectly still. And she finds this big piece of wood, bamboo stump piece, and it was about that big. And she gets a forceps and she pulls it out. And of course, there's a lot of drainage and so on with that. And then she takes this syringe and with the potassium permanganate and dresses, washes it all out. And not a budge from the elephant. It's just perfectly still. She's talking to it all the time. And then when it's finished, she tells the mahout what to do and to please bring him back in the morning so she could see. Well, she did that, but this elephant fell in love with my mother. And every time it came on into the camp, it would walk straight over to where my mother was and put her trunk around my mother. And my mother would say, "Now be a good boy and don't do that." And finally the elephant let it go. But for us, it was great because after she was taken care of and so on, the mahout would have the elephant get down on its knees, and we climbed up, my sister and my brother and I, and onto its back, and went down into the Ganges River, and the elephant is squirting water up on it. Oh, it was glorious, it was just a wonderful time. So things like that seemed to me perfectly normal. I mean, this is, elephant shows up, all right, so my mother's a doctor, she treats an elephant. And it's the kind of thing that, when it's your life and you're the one that's doing this, people used to say to me, "What was it like growing up in India?" And my only answer was wonderful, because I thought it was wonderful. This dyslexia thing was a big problem. But aside from that, my childhood was great.
This is incredible. Gladys, I want to turn to your career pretty quickly here, but I want to just finish out with your mother. Both your parents, osteopathic physicians, going to India in 1916 to set up their practice among these people. Such mind-blowing dates to all of us. It's just so hard to wrap our modern minds around this kind of history that you encapsulate in a single life. But before we turn to your career, take us fast forward a little further into your mother's career as this American woman, this American female doctor from Cincinnati, who's now in India, and her journey alongside Mahatma Gandhi. Tell us about that.
Well, during the partition, which means not 1957, when the British people left India, Pakistan and Hindustan separated. And so the Hindus who were living in Pakistan moved out of Pakistan, and the Hindus into Hindustan, and the Pakistanis who were living in Hindustan moved. But the transition between those two was a war zone, and the people were killing each other. It was just really, really bad. And Mahatma Gandhi was going around the country trying to help his people to understand what was going with the other people. It was a very difficult time. And so my parents and my second brother who was also a physician. He graduated from Harvard, and he was out there at the time too. They created a mobile medical unit, and they would go around into the refugee areas where people were dying of malaria, dying of all kinds of illnesses, but also of being killed by the others. And as far as my parents were concerned, it didn't matter whether they were Hindu or Muslim or a giant or whatever there was. These were people that needed care, and they did what they could. They buried the ones that they could. They patched up the ones that they could. They did the medical work with them. And Mahatma Gandhi was doing his work with the people at the same time. And there were times when my dad would be on the same platform with Mahatma Gandhi. My mother would be supportive because women didn't talk, all that, but she was always the backbone of all this. And Mahatma Gandhi appreciated what they did so much that he gave my mother a beautiful, I have it upstairs, Kashmiri shawl, and my dad a Panipat blanket, just as an exchange for the friendship that they had. It was a wonderful thing. I was here in the States at the time, and so this was going on while they continued. In their later years, they started a home for the children of leper parents because they didn't travel back into the jungles. There were other people who were able to take that work on, but they in Bhogpur started a home for the children of leper parents. And there are thousands of young people, there are thousands of people who now are grown and have lives who wouldn't have been able to if my parents hadn't started this colony, this home for lepers, because leprosy at that time was, and the lepers they were poorer than the poorest. I mean, there was nobody who was any more outcast than lepers. And so, but along that time, you get me started in this. I have another story I have to tell you because this is
Keep it coming.
My aunt, my dad's younger sister, also went out to India as an osteopathic physician, but she was in South India. And this was about 1922. And so one morning, when she was at the mission station, the police people came to the door, and they had a baby in their arms, a naked little baby girl. And they said they were going to work, and they heard something in the cactus hedge. And they put down boards to get into and see, and they found this baby. And it was a baby girl. And of course, the reason it was in the cactus hedge is because obviously the parents had wanted a boy and this was a girl. And so the way to get rid of her was to throw her into the cactus hedge. Well, Aunt Belle got Dorcas, and she spent 2 hours picking cactus thorns out of this newborn baby. But Dorcas grew up as my little sister because Aunt Belle came to the States and Dorcas came into our family. And Dorcas was our Margaret and my little sister. And she grew up to go back out to India and marry a man who was a preacher, and they lived in Varanasi. But they had 2 sons. Now, the one son is now in charge of the leper colony up in North India, and the other son is down in South India and has started a whole community of people who are doing work with nature. He's transformed that whole community down there. So it's that kind of work that has continued after my parents left, and Aunt Belle, of course, it's all tied up together. So, but yeah.
Incredible. I love these snapshots. It's transports our imagination to so many real things that we are detached from. And in this world of Instagram, we are so quick to snap judgments about people. We are so abusive in our kind of cancellation behavior, and we're so quick to categorize people and behaviors and opinions and philosophies, and we're so supercharged towards this separation of peoples and
Making decisions about people. Yeah.
right, yeah, it's so dark. And yet you're reminding me, as you're talking through this, with Mahatma Gandhi in the streets of India and your parents patching up and burying the people that stood next to him in silent and peaceful protest and were killed for it and were abused for it. Revolution does not take the form of armchair quarterback behind an Instagram page where you get to like fork out your abuse on humanity so that you can profess your opinion. Revolution comes in the steady hand and heart of people who do the right thing, and at any cost. And I'm humbled by that. My generation hasn't seen the need for that kind of revolution, and it's been generations since the United States has required a revolution on that scale. And so you remind me of the hard work that humanity has done to get us to the place we are today. And it's easy to be flippant about where we are today or jaded about where we are today. Right. And there's something about you that cuts through all of that. And I would like to jump into your career. And I do want to note that I lose track of time when I'm with you. And so if we get booted off this Instagram live, it's because we've exceeded our time for an IG live, and I'm going to jump right back on, and we'll go through the same routine of getting you back in because I don't want to cut these stories short. I think they're so important for the world to hear. And so if it suddenly ends, just go through the same charade. John, thank you for being at the side. A couple of people have asked who's helping Gladys in the background, and it's Gladys's son is with us. John McGarey is with us. Some of you asked her full name. This again, for those of you who've joined more recently, is Dr. Gladys McGarey, and she is 100 years old and still cranking. She's still seeing clients as a medical health coach, and as you can see, one of the sharpest minds among us right now with an incredible historic perspective. So I want to shift gears right now, Gladys, to how you've stayed so young of heart and mind and spirit, and you've remained unjaded through some of the most extraordinary times. You've watched as the world has given up more civil liberties over the last 20 years than were gained in the previous 100. And so there's a lot that could have made you jaded or frustrated at the world, and yet I see you moving with a much different behavior. And you gave me, in our conversation yesterday, an incredible glimpse of what keeps you young in your definition of life. You had a series of L words that got kind of really laid out your philosophy of life. Can you take us there?
I'd love to. Thanks for the opportunity. And one statement that I stand by is that ideals bring people together. Ideas separate them. And I'm finding more and more as I get older that people with the same ideals that I have are, working towards the light, are beginning to be called together. And all of my medical training was during World War II. Everything was a war. Everything had to do with war. And in the field of medicine, that has not changed. We look at diseases as our enemy. We're not fighting an enemy outside of ourselves. We're fighting the enemy that we face within ourselves in the process of fighting diseases. That's the whole pandemic is a part of that whole process. And the problem is that war doesn't end war. War continues war. And as long as we as physicians, long as we as people think that our enemy is a disease that we face, we're never going to get anywhere. We're going to keep running around on this whole merry-go-round and wondering why, what's going to happen. With this pandemic, we can't even bomb it. We can't even shoot it. We can't even find it. We don't even know what's happening with it. It's constantly changing. It's a living process. And so if life goes on like that, we're just going to just spin ourselves out of existence. It has no purpose or whatever. So through the years, I began to understand that my job as a physician was not just curing diseases. The diseases are going to be there. My job was working with living people, living their lives and doing what they needed to do with their lives as they chose to do. And I realized that, in fact, my eldest son is an retired orthopedic surgeon. But when he was finished with his training, he came through Phoenix and he said to me, "Mom, I'm really scared. I'm going into the world and I'm going to have people's lives into my hands. I don't know if I can handle that." And I said, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you can understand that it's your job to support the patient while they do their own healing, you have nothing to be afraid of. It's the job of the physician to work with the physician within each patient in order to bring about the healing. A surgeon can bring a tissue together and do a beautiful job, but then he supports the patient while they heal themselves. And we've completely taken that out of medicine. We think that as physicians, we have to be physicians and we have to do the job of healing. And it's backwards. So one of the things that has happened has been that I have come upon, well, you keep learning as life goes on. 2 weeks ago, I came up with an understanding of what we were doing with the whole concept of living medicine. Because the concept of living medicine is what I've been working with for a long time. And we just, we were becoming aware that more and more people, more and more physicians, more and more healers were coming under what we were calling the umbrella of healing medicine, but we weren't getting the message across. And I woke up one night and realized that was, things were absolutely upside down, topsy-turvy. It was not the same. We didn't need an umbrella. We needed to take that umbrella off and let the rain and the sunshine come in onto the soil, which is the foundation. So it was the foundation that we needed to connect with other people. I think that's why we got connected at this time, is because when we took that umbrella off and allowed ourselves to pull our roots together, then we can become, do what is needed, which is part of working with the soil. And just last night at a board meeting, we came up with a statement that really encapsulates this, and I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. It's not. Life with love is medicine. We call it living medicine. So life with love is medicine. That brings healers together. And it is, because the Native Americans have known this forever. They have called life medicine, love, the medicine of life, and so life with love is medicine, and it's living.
One of the things that strikes me around this, everybody from John Lennon on have told us this interesting thing. Love is everything. Everything is love. But you took this to a totally different level for me, because you didn't stop at love with the letter L, and I think there's something really lazy about our current mindset about the concept of love. We expect it to happen. We expect it to just unfold. We think it's a thing rather than a process. And so you've come up with a furthering of this deep truth. Life equals love, but through what? And so this is an exciting journey for us
Yeah,
to
and the
send that.
5 L's, life and love are the first two. Life by itself is like a seed that's sitting on the ground. It's got all the energy of the universe in it, and it can sit there for eons and not do anything, just be sitting there until the spark of love, which is the divine essence, activates it. Then it begins to grow. And when it starts to grow, that's when the sun and the rain and all of the other things and the soil around are part of what of who and what it becomes. But the next thing, and the next, so the first two are life and love. The third L is
I'm just losing that.
it's bliss, it's happiness, it's joy.
I'm gonna
fourth
interrupt for a
one,
moment because it may have just been my feed, but I lost your audio for the last 10 seconds at one of the most important parts. So could you back up just a few
Yeah.
seconds? I know that's hard to do mentally, but start us at life, love, and the next
Laugh.
you.
Life,
You go.
love, and laughter. Now my thing has turned black.
We've got you. We can see you and hear you now. We're good. Everybody, this is just so profound to be connected. We've been talking to Dr. Gladys McGarey, who is 100 years old this year and moving to her 101st year. She was born in 1920 and will turn 101 this year. She is a physician trained in allopathic medicine, an MD, and she'll join us back again, I suspect, in just a moment. So we'll give her a couple seconds to log back in. But she's taking us through an incredible history beginning in 1920 when she was born in India to two American parents, a mother from Cincinnati, father from Kansas, who were some of the earliest pioneers in osteopathic medicine and went to India and worked there for many decades, all the way from the villages of North India to ultimately the streets of Calcutta and other major cities alongside of Mahatma Gandhi. Her mother, can you imagine the pioneer her mother was as a woman physician in the 19 teens going to India to serve those communities? Incredible stories of her mother working to heal an elephant that had been brought in by one of the Maharajas and put this elephant back together in such a beautiful story there, and then moving into her career as we're tapping into that part of the story here. Gladys came back to the United States in 1936, I think is when she came back to the States. And she studied pre-med and then went to medical school starting in 1941. She started medical school in 1941 on the, let's see if I can invite her back here. So I just sent you another invitation, Gladys, if you're listening in. I just sent you another invite. You'll find it in the same spot that you did before, and we'll see if we can get you back on. Here you come. There you go, John. Thank you.
Yep.
And so Gladys started medical school in 1941 in the fall, like medical school classes always do. And of course, that's September of 1941. And of course, we enter World War II in the United States in December of that year. And so much of her medical training was throughout the war. And Gladys, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for popping back in. I was just catching people up on the history, filling in some of your history that brought you into your career here. But we can come back to this if we have time. But to finish out your biography here, finishing medical school in 1945 kind of time frame, Gladys's internship in Ohio, she was the very first female doctor in the hospital that she worked. And it was such an issue that they did not have a bunk room for her. And so she actually slept on the x-ray table with a pillow without privacy and the rest because they had no facilities to house women physicians. And so it blows my mind to imagine you, Gladys, as an incredible pioneer in the field of medicine and bringing women into this field. What a critical revolution allopathic medicine needed. And fast forward to my medical school class in the 1990s, some 50 years after you entered medical school, the majority of my class was women. We were 55% women in my class. And so you started a revolution. You were part of a revolution of bringing a feminine archetype, a feminine mindset into the practice of medicine. And so what a joy to imagine that. But we have to pick back up right where we dramatically dropped off there as the powers that be interrupted us. The energy you carry as a human being is disruptive to technology, and I love that. I think that you were just touching on some of the deepest truths you've come on in 100 years of life. And what I love is where you're heading with the definition of life. So you've taken us from life to love to laughter is the third L. And so tell us about laughter and what you see in it.
Yes. Laughter without love is cruel, it's cold. But laughter with love is warm and joyous, and happiness comes with it. The fourth L is labor. Labor without love is drudgery. I mean, you drag yourself to work, you don't want it, but you're gonna do it. You have to do it. It's just hard, it's drudgery. But labor with love is bliss. It's why the singers sing. It's why the painter paints. It's why doctors become doctors. It's what makes your heart sing. So it becomes bliss. The fifth L is listening. Listening without love is empty sound, but listening with love is understanding. And understanding is the very foundation of living medicine, because we need to stand on the earth and understand that our roots are being pulled together, and we're going to be able to do this thing that turns our energy and our life back to Mother Earth, and get her working with her again. It's very, very important. So these 5 L's, I think, are the foundation for living medicine. And I was going on and on with this a while when I was first coming up with these ideas, and somebody said to me, well, what about forgiveness? What about hope? And these fruits of the Spirit. And I said, well, they are what they're the building blocks with which we build the structure for living medicine. I went for a long time of my life trying to find a foundation on which I could begin to build some kind of a philosophy, because warring didn't do it. But when the concept of living medicine and life, things began coming together, and people began showing up like you and like other people who really get it, who understand that these 5 L principles are what really give us the juice that keeps us going. And the whole feminine energy is so interesting. When my sister and I went to my parents' grave site, this is 15 years ago or something, and I looked, and my daughter, who is a physician, was with us, and she looked at that at what we had written, and she said, "Mom, how could you have done that?" And I said, "What?" I had no idea what she was talking about, but I looked and I read Dr. John C. Taylor, Elizabeth S. Taylor. She had in my head, I had allowed that to happen. She had no recognition of the fact that she was a doctor. I was so ashamed. But then when I was in, people would ask me, "Do you want to be Mrs. McGarey or Dr. McGarey?" And I say, "Okay, both are okay. It's all right, whichever." To me, it was not that big. But in my daughter's life, that would never have happened. She was Dr. Helene Wexler, and she was never, you know, but in this whole time scheme of things, things have changed. But just in the last year, I have had another, life is so, I'm so in love with life, because in this last year, I woke up one morning because there was a huge crash, and I didn't know what the crash was. And when I woke up, I was in the valley in the high Himalayas, and on the right hand in the valley was a young woman prone on the ground, just in just a little dress kind of thing, just barely breathing, almost dead. In the left-hand side, there was a huge man in full armor, in exactly the same position, almost dead. And the words that came to me is, they've been trying to kill each other all this time, and you've got to do something about it. And I realized that the girl was on the right-hand side, which is the masculine side, and the guy was on the left-hand side, which is the feminine side. And we had this whole gender issue and all that also screwed up. We're doing this to each other. And it's time to bring it together. And I was telling a friend of mine about this, and she says, well, you know, I'm tired. We were talking about manifesting. And she says, you know, we can talk a lot about manifesting, but it's about time we start femifesting. And I love that, because to femifest, we're able to bring, to manifest, it's like climbing Jacob's ladder. You go from one degree to the
Oh no.
spiral. And you can be on the fifth level of the spiral and know what's going on at the second level. That's how women do things. That's how we can have a profession and take care of kids. You know, this has gone dark. It's our ability to understand things at different levels as women, but we can't do it alone. We need to manifest. We can femifest all we want to, but if we can't manifest and come together like this, we're killing each other.
Yeah.
So
There's an incredible prophecy about our time right now that's come out of the Amazon indigenous peoples. And one of my colleagues and dear mentors, who I have so much respect for, is Lynn Twist, who was one of the founders of Pachamama Network or the Pachamama Alliance, to protect the Amazon and the Amazonian people. And
wow.
The dream that has come out of this area is that fits your femifesting spiral so well, and this vision of the masculine embattled with the feminine, when the feminine's actually sitting in the wrong place. The feminine has been sitting in the masculine archetype, and I could say that, you know, we could look to our politicians for examples of this. You know, I think, you know, regardless of how you feel about Hillary Clinton politically, you can see ways in which she had to fit herself into a masculine archetype to grow to where she was. She lost her feminine process-oriented mind, and she became masculine in archetype, and perhaps more extreme than the men around her, because she felt the need to perform in that space. She manifested the career she had and life had, and there's no judgment from me on that, whatever it is, but it is obvious that she sat in this alter role of the masculine archetype. And the indigenous peoples of the Amazon have predicted that we are in the moment in which the bird of humanity is going to start to unfurl the wing of the feminine. The masculine wing has been deployed for the eons of our humanity and has been sending the bird in circles. And at this era that we are in, starting around 2010-12, the wing of the feminine has begun to unfold, and the bird of humanity is going to fly straight for the first time because of the balance of the feminine with the masculine.
That's right. you know, and that's what living medicine's all about, you know. It's such an amazing time to be alive, you know, to have these things manifest in our lives, because we've been femifesting forever, and it doesn't we haven't manifested it. Now it's time to really do that, and I love that from the Amazon. That's amazing.
And I believe your life has really demonstrated how to do this. And so you came up with this philosophy of life, love, laughter, labor, as you went through that march, and then finally listening. And what I see, even in the cascade of comments coming through today, so many are enjoying listening to you so deeply. And then others have been driven to these snap judgments and reactions to what's being said or stories that are being told, and they stop listening so quickly, and they go into this effort. And so for all of us who are listening in right now, I would encourage us to do exactly that. We need to listen. Try not to react for a period of time. Each of us have been conditioned to react so fast that we fail to listen to the thing that we believe we're hearing. And so you start reacting to your own belief systems rather than what's happening around you. So I invite you, for the rest of this conversation that we're having right now, please take time to listen. It's the penultimate hierarchy of life by Gladys McGarey here, 100-year-old physician who has joined us today, born in 1920 in India, and has taken this life journey with us throughout this conversation. If you're just joining now, you're going to have to go listen to the recording that we'll put out, because this has been phenomenal. But Gladys, I want to show the audience something about your true nature that has kept you, I believe, so young, which is just in the last few weeks, you woke up with this new realization around the umbrella and the foundation.
Right.
And here you are at 100 years old, making breakthroughs in your own perception of the world around you, your own potential, and your role in it. And I find that so profound, so inspirational, and frankly, just mind-blowing. So can you take us back? You touched on it earlier, but now that we have the archetype of the five, the life, the love, the laughter, the labor, and the listening, now take us to the umbrella versus the foundation, because I think it tells us something about our role in nature.
Yes. For years, and it fits it right in with the femifesting too, you know. For years, we've been talking about how different organizations, I am, and different organizations that really are saying kind of the same thing, but not quite the same thing. That and we need to be able to bring this energy together and so on. And so, because we were looking at it as the foundation for living medicine, being an umbrella that allows these other organizations and other ideologies really to come together. And the umbrella was sort of a protection that we were thinking of, but to bring people together. But I woke up, it's just been 2 weeks ago, I think, I woke up with the realization that I have everything upside down. We don't need an umbrella, because living medicine and life needs the sunshine and it needs rain. And the umbrella has been keeping that away from us. We were protecting ourselves with something that was making it hard for ourselves. What we really need is a foundation. We need the soil. We need Mother Earth. We need to be connected at the roots. And our roots bring us together in a way that we understand each other. We can be friends with each other and not interrupt what the other person's doing. When you watch a root system, the roots are individual. They are who they are, and they know who they are. And the plant that comes up is responds to what the roots are doing to bring them there. You know, it's this amazing process. And when we chop down trees and take out forests and all of this kind of thing, think of what we're doing to those roots. We need to recall our position in this world as God-given caretakers for the earth. When God said, you know, he did his business of creating the earth, and he said, and it was good, and he liked it, and everything was fine. And he said to us, when he created us, you have now, you're in charge of all this. We became the caregivers, and we thought we were, you know, that we owned them. We thought we took ownership instead of taking on the responsibility, like the whole medical system has done. We became people who were the healers. No, we're the people there to help the whole healing process. And so it's the light that is shining on the earth, the light that's shining on medicine, the lights that's shining on each one of us at this time is bringing into clarity the darkness that we have allowed to, you know, just push us down instead of allowing us to listen and move up out of the darkness. We've allowed ourselves to be pushed down. And so it's time. It really is time. And it's coming together. And I'm just really excited about living at this, you know, I think it's amazing.
I am so inspired by that. I think that there's been a lot of people who have gotten through this last year and feel overwhelmed, that feel jaded, that feel like, you know, well, screw it. If, you know, if this is the way that civil liberties go, and we have this new medical military complex, and this is that, and I hear all this doubt, and then I meet you, and thank you, Dr. Katie, for introducing us. What a phenomenal thing to meet somebody after a century of life who keeps saying, every day that you wake up, it seems, it is such a cool time to be alive. And it is so exciting to be alive right now at this tipping point of human history, of biology on the earth, of human consciousness, you know, all of these things. We have been given a great gift to be together in community today with 7.8 billion souls joining the party. And here we are, and we get to start to choose where we're going to go. And Gladys, I would like to, you know, it's tough to even want to conclude this conversation because the world needs this conversation more than maybe any other medicine we can think of. But I want you to inspire the audience right now with a vision that you have now held as to what your next project is. And I hope that I'm still generating these kinds of brilliant ideas when I'm a century into life. So dig in and tell us what this new vision is.
Well, our vision now, and has been for some time, is to create a village for living medicine, so that there is some place on earth where the people who are in the village and around the village understand basically the 5 L's, but the reality of who and what we are, and that we are the caregivers of the earth, but we're the caregivers of each other, but we're primarily the caregivers of ourselves. And we've forgotten that. We were talking the other night about the soil, and one of us said, well, if you take the I out of soil, and put a U in, it's different, you know. So that we need to actually become aware of who and what we are, and what our responsibility is on this earth, and individually do the things that we can do to make our life more joyful, more livable, and all the rest of it. But also in the process of doing that, we're connecting with the earth, and we're connecting with each other, which we can't do if we don't understand that. So the soil that the earth, Mother Earth, is provided us with, we can't keep on destroying it. We have to start nurturing it again.
So beautiful. So,
village
for living medicine, village for living medicine. And if you missed the earlier conversation, living medicine as a philosophy of health that Gladys has helped to pioneer, that is built on the idea that life equals love, love, laughter, labor, and ultimately listening. And so we've got these 5 L's of life, love.
Laughter.
The interesting, I think, juxtaposition of laughter and love is one that is missed too often. We often will conjure up the I'm in love kind of butterfly sensation when we think of love. But when you see a child laugh over something in their innocence, there's no better expression of love in so many ways. The delight that comes in the laughter is such a beautiful expression of love. So I love that you juxtapose those two. Life, love, laughter, and listening with labor kind of as this foundational effort towards it. And I want to recognize all the labor that you have put into your life, Gladys. You have been a pioneer. You have overcome ridiculous, institutionalized sexism, institutionalized beliefs about what women should and shouldn't be doing, what women should or can and cannot do, are capable or not capable of. Your resident that was over you in your internship when you were the very first woman to ever train in this hospital in Ohio there, he was so determined to make you fail because he really fundamentally felt that women were incapable of being MDs. And so I just recognize the stories that you don't tell us because you make it look so easy. and so I know there has been a lot of labor in your life that has allowed you to express the other aspects of life in this living medicine. And I think I speak for everybody that the vision of a village of living medicine that would be full of that love, laughter, labor, and listening would be a really joyful place to live and a really hopeful future for humanity to bond together to co-create. So thank you for the vision. Thank you for your joy in the day and being alive today. We look forward to seeing what you do in your second century of life.
Thank you for.
And I do want to just open it up to you.
Thank you for having me and letting me. The what?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I want to open it up for any last thoughts or comments you might have there.
I can't.
Do you have any last thoughts or comments?
Oh, no, thank you so much to allow our roots to connect and to be able to share what we have, because it's not only juicy, but it tastes good, I mean, this is just a good process of part of life. So, and when anybody that knows anything about the chakras, this whole thing fits right into that. I mean, and the medicine wheel, it's such an amazing time to have these things coming together. And we feel that the Village for Living Medicine is really going to be a place where we can manifest the things that we've been manifesting all this time.
I love it. I love it. What a bunch of pearls you've given us today. Everybody, you can find Gladys on Instagram at her own Instagram page, which is BeGladMD. And so tune in to Gladys directly there. And Dr. Katie, thank you so much for connecting Gladys and I. It's been an absolute joy to meet this woman. And I'm very excited for the recording of this to go out. And if you've enjoyed any of this, please share this medicine. That last few seconds there, Gladys, reminded me of that famous scripture that man does not live on bread alone. And I would say that men and women around the world right now would be deeply nourished and deeply fed by the stories you've given us today. It's something for us to sink our roots into, as you have described, and really create that different future as we imagine a world covered in villages of living medicine. And so thank you for such a refreshing journey, and we'll look forward to having you in my life and in future broadcasts to bring this community together again around your wisdom. Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys McGarey, 100 years strong and 100 years young in mind. So keep going, Godspeed to all of you, and may we all have the same optimism for life that we've seen today. Thanks for joining. Thanks for getting the word out on this incredible message from Dr. Gladys McGarey. Take care.